If you're thinking about moving to Baton Rouge, you may want to look at Louisiana's newest city, St. George. So a big portion of Baton Rouge has recently broke off to form its own city, joining places like Baker, Central, and Zachary as a separate municipality. So this has been an ongoing thing for over a decade, but it's finally official. And here's what we're going to talk about in this video. So how did we get here in the first place? What areas does St. George cover? What's the deal with the schools? And what does it mean for people who are moving to the area? If you want answers to those questions and more, stick around because we're getting into it right now. Hey, I'm Shaun Ramos, and this is the Living in Louisiana channel where we talk everything related to living in or moving to Louisiana, specifically Greater Baton Rouge. And I am a local realtor in the area, so if you're looking to make a move anywhere in the Greater Baton Rouge area, I'd love the chance to talk to you and earn your business. Feel free to reach out whichever way you prefer. You can call, text, email, and I am the one that's going to answer every single person that reaches out. So let's talk about how St. George came to be. Here's a little bit about the history. Like I said, the idea of St. George has been around for over a decade, but it wasn't originally about forming its own city. It was about forming their own school district. St. George organizers tried to get approval from the state legislature to break apart from the East Baton Rouge School District, but both attempts failed. And when that didn't work out, in 2015, St. George organizers shifted their focus into incorporation to form their own city. And this will allow them to control their own local government, zoning, and school decisions. But when they turned in the petition to put incorporation on the ballot, they were short by 71 signatures. All right, then fast forward to October 2018. Organizers submitted a new petition for a smaller version of St. George. This time they got enough signatures, so in 2019, it was put up for a vote. The results, 54% of people voted in favor of incorporation, and St. George was on its way to becoming a city. But not so fast. Almost immediately after the vote, the incorporation was challenged in court by Baton Rouge city officials. And that resulted in lawsuits and appeals that delayed the process for years. But finally, in 2024, the Louisiana Supreme Court ruled in favor, and St. George was officially Louisiana's newest city. So that gets us up to date, and let's talk about what area does St. George cover. So the original proposed boundaries were much larger, but over time Baton Rouge annexed key areas like the Mall of Louisiana and Segan Marketplace, so they wouldn't become part of the new city, they would remain part of Baton Rouge. And the final boundaries that we ended up with covered a large part of southeastern East Baton Rouge Parish. And they cover approximately 60,000 residents. If you're looking at a map, St. George stretches from Perkins Road down to Highland Road and Airline Highway, covering a large portion of what was previously unincorporated Baton Rouge. And for comparison, St. George is now larger than Baker and Central combined. So let's jump over and I can show you what St. George looks like on the map. So taking a look at the map, you can see how large of an area that St. George covers. This is the new map. So you got the city of Baton Rouge up here. And all this was considered Baton Rouge, but it was unincorporated areas. So scrolling in a little bit, too much. So you see this covers a lot of the South Baton Rouge area, including neighborhoods like Oak Hills, Highland Lakes area, Village St. George, even Country Club of Louisiana. You've got major highways like I-10 and Airline Highway running through, and you can see where they cut out parts. This is the Segan Marketplace area, and then you've got the Mall of Baton Rouge area here. So those are to remain part of Baton Rouge, not St. George. But that also, the area that does cover, you got Westminster, Inniswald areas, a lot of the Old Jefferson, Shenandoah, and this runs down to basically till you get to Prairieville. So you can see that, yeah, it's a pretty large area, over 60,000 residents. So lots of places to look in here. A lot of these were, some of my favorite parts of Baton Rouge to begin with, especially like the Shenandoah area is really popular with clients that I work with. A lot of people really love South Baton Rouge. You've got some of the hospitals that are covered in this area. So if you are a medical worker, this is probably a great place to look at. And we're starting to see like our MLS convert. So where all of these were Baton Rouge addresses before, they're in the process of making the move over to the St. George address. So if you have any questions about the boundaries or if a particular house falls into a certain area, make sure you let me know. That's what I'm here to help with, things like that. So now that St. George is a city, who's running things? Since the city's brand new, it doesn't have any elected government yet. The governor appointed some interim city officials, including a mayor, chief of police, and some city council members. These officials will serve until the residents can have an election and vote on permanent leadership. And something that's on everybody's mind is what happens with the schools. Now, this is one of the biggest reasons that people supported the incorporation of St. George education. Just like Zachary and Central, St. George plans to form its own independent school district. And this will allow them to control things like local education funding, class sizes, and resources. But for now, that process is on hold until the city's up and fully operational. For homeowners in the area, this could be a huge selling point in the future, especially since Zachary and Central are consistently ranked among the best in the state. Better school districts always result in higher property values. So that could be a huge plus when they go to sell in the future. Now, let's talk about why this happened in the first place. Supporters of St. George say the push for incorporation was all about better schools and better city services. Many residents feel their tax dollars just weren't being used effectively by Baton Rouge's government. They wanted more local control over things like schools, infrastructure, law enforcement, and zoning and city development. So for comparison, when Zachary and Central formed their own cities, they both saw improvements in schools and local services. There are some critics, including national outlets like the Daily Mail, who say that the formation of St. George was racially motivated. They say the new city separates the wealthier, mostly white areas from the more diverse parts of Baton Rouge. But St. George organizers deny this, saying the move was simply about better schools, infrastructure, and self-governance. This debate's been going on for years, and it's likely to continue while St. George continues to establish itself. So what does this all mean for people that are moving to the Baton Rouge area? If you're looking to move here, St. George is likely an attractive option. I mean, here are the things to consider. You could possibly be looking at lower local taxes, depending on how the city structures its budget. You could be looking at much better schools. If they create their own school district like Zachary and Central, that could be a huge draw for families. They're probably gonna have more local control. Residents should have direct input on city decisions rather than being a part of the bigger Baton Rouge governance. Then you also have to ask these questions. Will the public services be as effective as Baton Rouge? Things like police, fire, and road maintenance are still in transition. And how long is it going to take to form the school district? If it does happen, it could be years before we finally see that. And will businesses relocate to St. George? The economic growth is going to depend on how the city develops. So all these things are still yet to be seen. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this, but I do know one thing, that if I were moving to the Baton Rouge area, St. George would be a city that I take a hard look at. So whether you're for it, against it, or just curious to see how it plays out, there's no doubt that this is one of the biggest changes locally that we've seen in recent history. And if you're thinking about moving to Baton Rouge, whether you're looking at St. George, Baton Rouge, or any of the surrounding areas, make sure you give me a call if there's anything I can help you with. Again, I am a local realtor and I can help you make that move as smooth as possible. I've helped people from all over the country move to the area, and I'd love to help you too. Call, text, or email, whichever you prefer, and we can set up a Zoom call so we can jump on there and really narrow down the area you want to be in, and then also talk about finding the perfect home for you. If you made it this far, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any videos I put out in the future. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on the next one.